What is going on, everybody? It is Thursday night. It is 6 p.m. I apologize for my voice. My name is Paul Spencer. That man right there is Dan Connor, and you are checking into the NFL Weekly Talk. Dan, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. Doing pretty good. Finally got a quarterback in New York Giant land. I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. We're talking about a division that received their quarterback. You know what I mean?
yeah, so it's good to have some questions answered for us. But yeah, we're not here to talk about my team or our division yet. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Long day today. Had a court day today. So,
I hope
you
all went
know,
well.
yeah, not the way I wanted to, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's extended for another 30 days. So we'll see. But that's for another day, but who knows, Dan? Who knows, man? Just
yep.
you take what life gives you, man. So we will find out next month how everything goes. So, but today, we need to talk some football, Dan. As we go through the divisions here, we started with the weakest. Now we're going on to one of the strongest here. Well, I don't want to say one of the strongest, Dan. At least one of the teams are pretty damn strong. The first
Yep.
place Baltimore Ravens. But as we always do, Dan, we got to start at the bottom and work our way up top. So God, Dan, talk about a bad team. Let's talk about them. The dog pound, the Cleveland Browns.
Yep. The
Wow.
Cleveland Browns.
Good
Yeah,
God, Dan.
yeah. No Watson again all season.
Oh my God. Dan,
Just
how
a
bad
brutal year for them.
how bad do you feel about the Cleveland Browns with that ridiculous, probably the most worst contract in NFL history with Deshaun Watson, Dan?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a horrible contract. And the
oh,
worst thing about it was the guaranteed money. If it wasn't guaranteed money,
yes.
then
Yes.
whatever, you're probably not, paying for that. But
Mhm.
it's just not
Agree.
very wise in considering the controversy he was involved in.
Right.
He's
Right.
probably not fully focused, and it just hasn't gone right. But it being the Browns, typically quarterbacks don't do very well there. I mean, Jerry Judy had a good year,
You're right.
but they had like no core. They had Winston. I mean, he was all right. He's serviceable, and
Right.
Watson played 7 games. So
That's
that's
true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I remember the one game, the Snow Bowl, when they played Buffalo in that snowstorm. I was like, oh my God, this is like amazing to watch this game. But I mean, how do you think they should have kept Jameis Winston? I mean, he went to your team too. I mean, but do you think
maybe.
that Dan, for 2 years, $8 million, he could have been your starter, Dan, for the year, entirely for
Yeah,
the year, 2 million,
yeah. Well,
two
especially
years,
considering that they're number 2 in the draft. So
right?
you're thinking, maybe they're going to take quarterback. You have Winston be the bridge guy. But it
Mm,
seems like that's not really what they're going to be doing.
right.
And they traded for Kenny Pickett, but
Yeah.
is Pickett really going to be your answer? No. They planning on drafting a rookie and starting Pickett. I don't
Right.
know about that, but maybe they thought it was, but maybe they just want to have a reset at the position, the QB room, which makes sense
It does
considering
make sense.
Thompson is out.
Mhm.
They brought back Miles Garrett, but we'll talk about the defense in a second.
Right.
But if they could score points, they probably would have had more than 3 wins. They just have no offense.
You're right. I mean, the way that you look at this, based on last year, Dan, I mean, they had many problems. Okay. The quarterback, Deshaun
Oh
Watson,
yeah,
couldn't ever get on the field, excuse me. And they're running backs too, Jerome Ford was injured. Nick Chubb coming off his 19th ACL injury,
yep,
PCL injury. That
yeah,
was something there. You couldn't rely on him being the bell cow. I mean, you
nope.
got a running back by committee, but both of them were hurt as well. And Dan, the wide receivers, man. I
I
mean,
like Judy.
I like Jerry Judy, yes, but other from that, Cedric Tillman, and Michael Woods, they're not
Oh,
top guys, Dan.
Elijah Moore, you expected more from when Njoku's a good
Oh yeah,
target.
Mhm.
They could probably use another weapon. Especially if they're going to bring quarterback in here,
I
which,
agree.
which
I
it
agree.
seems like they're going to do.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, Chubb needs to stay healthy. Without him really staying healthy, I mean, it's
What do
tough.
you think they bring him back because he's a free agent?
Maybe
I
I don't
think
know.
if it's a cheap price, they might bring him back because he's
It
not
was
the bell
cheap,
cow. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
not
if
the
he's
bell
not going to
cow,
stay
but
healthy, then
right,
I would bring him back on a cheaper deal for sure because he's still
agree.
solid.
Right,
You
right,
can still split cars with Ford. You can always draft another running back if you really wanted to.
agree.
But in the draft, there's a lot draft. But I like the receivers. I think Judy had a really good year.
Mhm.
He had a solid year regardless, even though he had really no no quarterback.
Mhm.
And the biggest surprise, we thought Miles Garrett was going to get traded. He get traded. They tipped him.
Yeah, I mean, talk about calling your own shots. Excuse me, calling your own shots,
Yeah,
Dan. It's like
makes sense.
it does make sense. It definitely
That
does.
makes
But
sense.
but with
The
offense,
deal
Dan,
is a lot, man.
oh my God, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, he set the bar for the defensive end spot, Dan. I mean, that set the bar. But we're speaking of the
40 million a
offense here.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of the offense here, would you rather go? I mean, you bring in Kenny Pickett this year. We'll move forward to who they picked up as well. We'll throw it in combo. But you pick up Kenny Pickett to be your starter because you cannot bank on Watson even playing a game, Dan. I mean,
No,
even playing
no.
one game, and you're
He'd have
stuck
to.
with the contract.
He'd have to prove that he do that. I just don't think he's can do anything at the moment.
Agree, 100%.
It's not gonna be a while until you really know either. And unfortunately, that's probably going to be a failed move by them. But that's not wasn't a smart move for them to begin with.
Right.
But Pickett is serviceable. And if you don't think a Ward, if you get him, or a Sanders, if you get him already,
Hmm.
then you should start Pickett and be a bridge guy, I guess. I mean, you're probably not going to win a lot of football games,
Right. Right.
but are the Browns really looking to be a playoff team this year? I think their defense
Mm.
is talented, but are they going to be a playoff team in that division? I doubt it.
I like what you said, Dan. They're at two there. They can't go wrong with the draft if you want to take that bridge quarterback to sit the bench 1 year behind Pickett. Let's say Cam drops. I think the no-brain situation is go after a Cam Ward, number one. I mean, he could possibly outplay Kenny Pickett and win the job in their first race, his first year.
It's
But
possible, yeah.
you got to think too. Next year, like you said, next year they're not in contention to getting out of the division, Dan. I mean, Pittsburgh's still better than them. Ravens are better than them. Cincinnati's better than them, Dan. They're the
Yeah.
fourth best team in this division. They're not going to get out of the division to win it, and they're not going to win a wild card, Dan, because you're gonna
I
have to
doubt
win
it.
10 games. You're gonna have to win 10 games in a wild card. So
And in
to
that
me,
division, I don't know if that's happening.
right, and to me, you know what? Okay, you go out and get that quarterback now. And then next year, you're still going to be a top 6 draft team, Dan. So next year, you go out and either get the weapon or build around that QB because you already have him in place. So
Yep,
I think it's quarterback here, Dan. I really do. But
I think so too. But
but
they have no
Dan,
offensive line either.
that's true. That's the
If they
thing
go
too.
66 sacks, now I can't tell how much it has to do with how bad DTR, Watson,
Yeah.
and Winston are,
Hmm.
but that's still a lot. That's 66 is a lot. That's definitely top
Agreed.
5 in the NFL at giving up sacks.
Well, I mean, a
Uh,
lot of those sacks, Dan, were on the quarterback. I seen Winston
yeah,
climb that
holding
pocket
on
like
to the
crazy.
ball, yeah, climbing
DTR
the
did the
pocket,
same thing
running
too.
into his
Right.
sack.
Right.
So
Hmm.
it wouldn't surprise me if 10, 15% of them are self-inflicted, maybe 20,
Exactly. Hmm.
but still, that leaves you with 50 something, at least 40, high 40s.
Agree. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you go Will Campbell, offensive line number 2, right away, solidified starter for
That
15
would be a,
years?
that would be a surprise pick. It's a needed pick. It's
Yeah.
definitely a more valuable pick.
Hmm.
But the problem is they know they need a quarterback, and they have a tough decision to make because you could either take a Will Campbell, take a
Hmm.
Travis Hunter, take
Right.
a Abdul Carter. You could take a quarterback if that's what you're set on.
Hmm.
But if your quarterback is your fourth or fifth best player on your board,
Yeah.
even though
Exactly.
you need that, are you going to ignore that
Hmm.
player that's way further up your board than a quarterback?
Right.
I don't know what their board would look like.
Agree.
Let's
Agree.
get to
Agree.
just a couple comments.
Yep. The Browns need the big Chubbs back. To me, I mean, if it's a cheap deal, Dan, I agree with what we talked about, but he's not that servable 25 ball carrier game. He's that 10 to 15 guy. You know, Dan, I hate saying this, but I love watching the guy play. I'm all for his story, ACLs after
Oh, of
ACLs.
course, but
But
man,
my thing is, Dan, I hate saying it. He's one injury away, Dan, from being paralyzed from waist down, Dan. You know what I mean? And I hate that.
exactly.
I can't see that happening to him.
Well,
Like,
you hate to see
uh,
that. You hate
yes,
seeing something like that. Let's see another
agree.
comment here.
Could Kirk Cousins be
It
cut
could
June
be, but if
1st?
I'm the Browns, I'm staying away from Kirk Cousins.
But Dan, that's a contract you want to stay with. You're already paying Deshaun Jackson $200 million owed still, and you want to
Exactly.
bring in Kirk Cousins, who lived off the franchise deal with Washington, went to Atlanta and got the huge contract coming off his injury, and basically couldn't even throw the ball. Dan, we seen his press conference.
Yeah,
I can't throw off my back foot. I have that limp arm where I can't throw. Dan, I'm not having two quarterbacks that I don't know it's going to play half the season. Not going to
it's too
happen.
risky. It's just too risky in their situation. You're better off taking a rookie quarterback and then seeing
Agree.
what happens.
On a cheaper
Or
deal, Dan, you think if you get Cam Ward, you get a Shador Sanders, you're talking $4 million a year, Dan, for 4 years,
yeah,
20 million, all guarantee. You can guarantee all of it for 4 years, and
yep,
you're still not even touching Deshaun contract or Kirk Cousins because they're going to be 50 and 50, Dan. Crazy,
absolutely.
crazy. Better to go with a rookie then, cheaper, and you got your quarterback if he pans out for the next 10 years. You know.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
for them, I mean, they're in a great position at number two.
Hmm.
Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter makes them. I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, that'd be a home run pick either of them.
I don't think they go Travis Hunter though, Dan. I mean, he's that
I think they would
defensive
go out. I
specialist.
think they'd go Abdul Carter
I do
if they
too. I
if they
mean,
went at one.
imagine Miles Garrett off the
In my
edge
opinion,
and Abdul Carter and Miles Garrett off the edges. That would solidify that defense, that front four. Yeah. And I think any secondary will be able to play that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, I know
Hmm.
the Will Campbell's good. Offensive lineman is worth, but Campbell, but I don't know. There's some real good players up there.
Agree.
So
And that
have
is
you
the
had all the
downside.
pro
Yeah.
days yet? What guy's going to shoot up the board?
Right.
There's always a
And that
couple of
that
guys will come into the top 10 you didn't expect.
yeah, Campbell does. That's his only downfall. He has short arms, what I call crocodile arms. He has the small ones, but
He's
listen,
got his
man, when you're
footwork. Footwork
but
is
yeah,
punch.
but the thing is, when you play in the SEC and you dominate that offensive line like Campbell does, you
Oh,
might
you
have
have to.
short alligator arms, but you're still busting your ass out there. So if he's there, that's a need. Man, I don't. There's so many options for the Cleveland Browns, Dan. Honestly,
I
so
think
many
I think
options.
it's I think it's very tempting. Who should draft offensive line with the second pick and sign one or the other, Cooper or Keenan Allen to 1-year deals? They need another weapon. I'll agree with that.
Okay,
I do
so do
think
you
they need
bring
another
back?
weapon.
Do you bring back Amari Cooper then?
I would.
I mean,
I
he's
think
looking
he's a
he's looking
top.
at 16 to 20 a year, Dan. That's what he wants, which is basically really a cheap price for a wide receiver now.
Now it's cheap.
Right.
Just compared to how much people make. I mean,
Oh,
he could definitely play if he's healthy.
mhm,
It's not it's worth a shot, but you might be better off drafting a guy. I don't
mhm.
know if there's anyone else better than he is on the market.
Right,
If you don't think
right.
it's really gonna improve things, but I think they need another weapon. I definitely do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they go defense. That defense is solid, unless you know what. Hey, you want to shock the world and get the best player in the well. Honestly, I think Abdul Carter's the top player in the draft, no matter what.
Probably. Yeah, I
Yeah,
would say
overall
so.
player PFA ranking, I go Abdul Carter, but is it really a need, Dan, to stack that defense when you can't score on offense? You know what I mean?
No. They average 15 points a game. But
Yeah,
also is taking a Ward or a Sanders gonna mean they average 25 points a game?
that's
I don't know.
that's
I
true. That's true. I
don't
mean,
know.
he
I
needs
have
he
no
needs
idea.
weapons. A rookie quarterback needs weapons, don't he? And you really don't have the weapons. Still,
Nope.
really no running game because Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb, if he's brought back, they're serviceable, Dan, but they're not bell cow runners that can win games for you. They're not. Eddie says I have Banks and the Mizzou over line, Kelvin Banks from Ohio State. I have him very high. I
Yeah,
maybe
Banks is high. I don't know if he's
very high.
gonna go top 10, but he'll go top
Mhm.
15, I think.
Well, here's a nice name out there that still hasn't been signed.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett. I mean, I think he's going to be a cheap guy. He doesn't have to be the one, Dan. He could be the two with Jerry Judy. That might be an option there too. To bring
Yeah.
a couple of weapons. I could do that if it's a cheap deal. He has 1 or 2 years left in the tank. Bring him in. Why not?
Yeah.
Yep. But the defense is solid, Dan. I mean, I love their defense, starting by Miles Garrett, who broke the bank this year. You're looking at their defensive line, Malik Collins, Shelby Harris, and McGuire. I think they're pretty solid. Their secondary is really great. I love Denzel Ward. I like Grant Delpit. I loved him ever since he
Their
came out of
defense
LSU.
is
Yeah, they're
stacked.
good. They're good. They're good. I like them. But I mean, how do you feel next year, Dan, about this Cleveland Brown team? Are we going to say the Cleveland Browns have a shot to win this division, Dan?
2 years from now?
Two, okay,
Maybe.
2 years. Okay, okay.
I don't know about this coming season. I would say definitely no. But I don't know
I,
what their situation going to be at quarterback. I have no idea. Maybe.
gotcha.
But this coming season, 2025, no, I don't think they're going to come close to winning the division. I think they'll be better. They could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
better.
I
Other
agree with
than
that.
winning division, I really don't know about that. It's a tough division.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have that 3 to 4, maybe a possibly 5 year window, Dan. I mean, their main thing is they got to hit on the quarterback first, Dan. I mean, there you looking back, going even back to Baker Mayfield days, Dan. They've never really hit on that quarterback. All these high priced, high draft pick quarterbacks, they haven't hit. Maybe they can hit with a Cam Ward. Maybe they can hit with Shador Sanders. But they got to find that quarterback first, Dan, to build around because what they have, I don't believe in Kenny Pickett, serviceable backup,
No,
and you get rid of DTR, who possibly could have been the two quarterback last year, but I think you
yeah,
start
no.
with a quarterback, Dan. I mean, man, there's so many pieces, Dan. So many pieces. Dan, what do you think about this one? I would not take him at 2. There's no way to take him at 2.
I'd
No
rather
way.
take a Barkley too. It's the same type of thing.
And the plus, this offensive line is not that great, Dan. Giving up 68 sacks this year. You know, I understand he played at Boise State. He's a one man show. He can run through anything. But Dan, this is like putting 11 in the box when they know you're not going to throw the ball and just go against Gente every play. To me, it's a waste right there too. But Eddie says, let's talk about the record here, Dan. What do you think next year? Eddie says they're going to have 5 wins. You know what?
6, 6 and
Yeah,
11,
I'm probably going to go
maybe.
6-11 too, Dan. I'm going to give him 6 this year. I think I'm going to go 6 this year. Yeah, let's go 6 this year. Eddie says, I think you need to put more skill players in O line before taking QB. I mean, I could see that, but is Will Campbell worth the second pick in the draft, Dan? Is a McMillan wide receiver worth a 2
Nope,
pick in the draft, Dan?
nope.
That's
No,
the thing.
unless you had
Jonte, is he number
unless
2?
you
No.
had like every piece.
Right.
Unless you had a solid offensive line, you had a really good defense, you had a quarterback,
Hmm.
you had your running game, and you just needed that weapon. Then yeah,
Hmm.
but typically a team that's like that isn't going to be that high in draft anyway.
Agree, agree.
So
I mean, if you're a puzzle piece away,
too
that might
high.
be yeah. If you're a puzzle piece away where you need that big back, you know, you lost Chubb, Jerome Ford's hurt. Jonathan might be the guy and say, you know what? We have the bell cow now. We have the wide receivers. We have the O line. We have a top 5 defense. You know, with wide receivers, which they don't have. We can win now, but I mean, you're their war board, Dan. They got to look and say, hole, hole, hole. We need to fill this here and this here. So I don't see it, Dan. But you got him 6-11. I got him 6-11. You know, for next year. Let's move on, Dan. Let's talk about another team in the division here. How about we go to the? Can you believe the Cincinnati Bengals, Dan? How bad they were as well.
I was surprised. I
What
thought
was it,
they would.
Dan? What was the issue? What? Why, Dan? Talk to me. Why?
They just played very inconsistent. Burrow played inconsistent in the beginning. They
Yeah,
just they just
yeah.
couldn't find their groove. They got better
Right, right,
as the season went on.
right. Agree. But the thing is, Dan, with the Cincinnati Bengals, you look at Joe Burrow, like you said, he got better at the end of the year. But you look at those numbers that he put up, Dan, his numbers were freaking MVP, like, Dan, throwing for 300
4,900 yards,
yards.
42
Yeah,
touchdowns, 9 picks is an amazing season.
incredible.
They started out slow offensively. Chase had an unbelievable season.
Hmm.
Higgins played 12 games. I guess if he was more healthy, they may have won more games. But
Right.
man, like Chase 127 receptions, your receiving set, Burrow
Yeah.
was set. Um, I don't know,
Hmm.
man.
I mean,
They
I
were just
think
very
Eddie sums it up the
inconsistent
best,
last
Dan.
year.
If the offense didn't have problems at all, that defense sucked. Yeah.
It was
And
bad,
the
yeah.
crazy thing is, Dan, which, well, you know, we'll talk about last year and this year together. We'll throw it
It
all
was
into as one. But this
25.5
is
a
the main.
game. I think they gave up more than this
God.
per game. I think
I mean, I understand, Dan, they can score 40 points, brother, but 25 points is a hell of a lot of points in the NFL right now. You know what I mean? For some
25 is a
teams.
lot. They averaged 27, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, just like he said, you know, the defense sucked. Now, this is the crazy thing. You signed Jamar Chase to this huge deal. You signed T. Higgins to this huge deal, Dan. 270 million dollars for wide receivers for 4 years. But then your best defensive player, Henderson, demands a trade, and you haven't locked him up yet, Dan. A
Yep.
solid all-pro player last year, the staple piece of your defense, the only player, Dan, I can say on their defense that is recognizable, that's serviceable, and you're not even signing him yet, Dan. You're not signed him yet.
They're
What
gonna
in
have to
the
figure
hell?
out. Unfortunately, the Miles Garrett deal reset the market, so he obviously wants more money.
And you know the crazy thing is, Dan,
I
not
think
get on
that's
top
what
of
they need
your
to address the most is their defense
Dan, you have to. Your defense is your weakest link of your team.
and
You
in
have
that
to sign
division
defense.
is tough.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I mean, you think about
So
it. Your front seven, you can't stop Derrick Henry. You got to have a defense to stop Lamar Jackson. The Pittsburgh Steelers, which we'll talk about, got better, Dan, got better on offense, but you're the team that doesn't need the offense, needs defense, but you're letting your defensive players walk away with what you need the
you can't
most.
do that.
You can't. No, 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 no. I mean, Dan, their offense is so elite. Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins.
Chase
I
Brown
love the
good
kid.
season too.
And I love the kid Iovasa, the young kid, this second first year player. I love him
Yep.
too. Mike Gesicki, Drew Sample. I mean, even their offensive line is okay. They didn't give us as many sacks as Joe Burrow usually gets, 400 sacks a year. He stayed
Yep.
upright at times this year, but
He had how do you say it? Lasovas Vias or something. I
yeah,
don't know how
Andre
to say it.
Ivasas. Yeah,
He had 6 touchdowns. It's pretty solid.
yeah, yeah. I think he's a great guy. I mean, he's that. And Dan, I mean, you think about it, really, he's the third wide receiver in the option there, and they're utilizing him too because Chase gets the double team, and Higgins, he's the number 2, and Iavasa's number 3. They spread the ball around, but we're not talking about the offense. We're talking about that defense being that damn bad.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, Dan, where do they draft at? Where's Cincinnati drafting at?
Cincinnati.
Yeah, where do they draft
They
at this year?
draft 17th.
17th. Well, Dan, can we agree that they're going to go defense?
Yes.
Where do you think they go, though? I mean, wow.
Secondary, maybe.
Maybe now. Do you think maybe a Xavier Watts or Benjamin Morrison, a corner safety / from Notre Dame, either way could come into play here?
Morrison would be a good pick for them.
I think so. He is coming off the injury, Dan, but he's had a year really to get ready for this. I think it would be a solid pick because if you put him with Jordan Battle in the secondary, I mean, you have Cam Taylor Britt playing the left. You can put him in there and let him go, one-on-one on the side. I think that's a great thing because Dax Hill got burnt a lot this year. Their right side corner. He got burnt like crazy this year, Dan. I mean, he got burnt. He was burnt toast. So if you're bringing up Benjamin Morrison, somebody like that can play that corner spot, I think they'll be a lot better.
Pratt was really good for them too last year.
Oh, who's that?
Jermaine Pratt.
Oh, yes, the middle linebacker. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, he was good also. But I think their secondary probably. Plus, you got to face that the wide receivers in that division.
Yeah,
they got Metcalf there.
Exactly. I mean, pick your poison. I mean, you got head case Pickens.
Metcalf and Pickens twice a year, and then I don't know. I think it's but I would say probably best defensive player like Eddie said in chat.
Oh, best defensive player. Yep, agree.
I think it makes the most sense. They have no problem scoring points.
Mm-hmm.
That's really.
I can see South Carolina taking here. I think it's the best player available. You definitely have to go defense because then I'll tell you what, if at 17, maybe they make a play here, Dan, and move up because you think about it, they have no money, Dan, right now. Let's just say Hendrickson comes into play here, Dan, for a team, but you got to move pretty high up to get Abdul Carter. I don't think they can do it. But Dan, if they lose Hendrickson somehow in this draft or a trade,
or beforehand,
exactly,
do something.
Exactly, they're up shit's creek.
Move up a bit, but I don't know if they really have the
draft capital.
The assets they have.
You're right.
I don't know. I don't think they have the capital.
Wow.
They don't have multiple picks in the early rounds.
They don't. And you're not going to give away a player, Dan. I mean, you can't give away a top player here because you look at their players. I mean, they're wrapped up with 3 players, Burrow, Chase, and T. Higgins. You're looking at almost $400 million, Dan, between those on long-term deals, a quarterback and 2 wide receivers. And you don't have the money to pay Hendrickson. You don't. That's the problem.
Yeah, you just don't have it. And I don't know. I always hate when a player resets the market, but that's how it goes.
And the crazy thing is, you have 2 players that's really going to solidify it. Myles Garrett already set the bar, Dan. You got Micah Parsons out there who hasn't signed yet. Hendrickson hasn't signed yet. And that
They're
could
gonna
be,
have to do something. I think they'll sign him somehow, but it's gonna cost them a pretty penny.
it's like, Michael, what do you think they do? They have to sign him, Dan. He's a
They have to
staple
sign
piece
him
of the defense. You have to sign this guy. You have
because
to.
your defense, your front is different without him.
Exactly. And
And
to me,
you're
Dan,
not
if
just you're not just replacing him in the draft.
no,
Sorry,
you don't have the player to do that. You're not top
nope.
three where you can get an Abdul Carter. You can't do that
You know,
this
you were
year.
top three. I'd say yeah, you could get
Sure.
Abdul Carter or something, but you're
Sure.
not.
hmm
I think they
Like,
bring him back
I think they
somehow,
do
some
too.
way.
Well, they better do it pretty damn quick,
Imperative.
Dan. They better
Oh,
pretty quick
yeah.
because the longer that he holds out and not signs this long term deal,
The
that
longer
price goes
someone
up
else can
every
come
day.
in. Yep.
Yeah,
So,
the
that
price
means
goes up.
someone else can come in. Like I'll give you a little more guaranteed. I'll throw an extra million or two a year.
Agree.
Some teams are capable of doing that, like the Patriots.
Agree, 100%. I mean, the Patriots are stocking up. They have the money. Hell, who knows, Dan? What if I told my friend this a couple of days ago? A team with the money is the Patriots, and out west you have the Raiders out there, Dan, with so much money.
Yes, they
Imagine
do. Yep.
locking him. Imagine locking him up with a Max Crosby on the other side, Dan.
Yeah.
They have the money to do it. Why not, right?
And it made their defense automatically better.
Oh, of course. I mean, you have bookends, going back to the Giants days when you had Strahan, on one side, of course. I don't think he signs the franchise tag. I think he wants that long
He wants
term
a
deal.
long-term deal.
He does.
Yep.
Yeah. He wants that long term. And the thing, Dan, is this: if
Because
you're
if you tag him, he's gonna say, "Well, why did you sign me for 5 years at that price?"
exactly, I mean, I can understand they can tag him for 3 years, but to me, Dan, if I'm Hendrickson and I'm the Cincinnati Bengals team, especially the defense, you're signing all these players on offense to long term deals. We look at Hendrickson, regardless if I make a million, he makes 30. My defense is being ridiculed because you don't care about our defense. To me, I wouldn't want to play there as a defensive guy because I'm never going to get the help that I need on the field, Dan. You're letting your best players go. That locker
Yep.
room has to be talking, saying, well, shit, why are they letting Trey go? They don't care about the defense. The problem is our defense. The offense is not an issue.
Yep.
Give us pieces on defense. But I just don't understand the GM right here, Dan. I just don't. I honestly don't understand it. You have to lock him up. Because I'm
I
not
think
signing a franchise deal, then. I am not signing a franchise deal.
no, if
Not
I'm
going to do
him,
it.
I'm not doing that. Definitely not.
Hell
Doesn't make
no.
sense.
Hell no. Not doing it. Not doing it. I just don't see that happening, Dan. Well, Dan, where do you think the Bengals go? I mean, the offense is not the problem. We said draft, go defense. I agree with that. Corner, safety, somewhere there. If they can have a movement to get a top, defensive end as well, that's fine. But it all falls on what Henderson does. But how do you feel that this team will do next year, Dan? Finishing third in division. Dan, they almost made the playoffs, but they sputtered in
Almost.
the beginning. They sputtered in the beginning of the season and turned it around late, back half of the season. But how do you think they pan out next year, Dan? I mean, this division's tough, Dan. This is physical, but this is big boy football.
I think they'll win 10 games.
10 games? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, 10 and
Okay.
7, 11 and 6 if they have a really solid season. I
Okay.
said how their defense is going to be. With Burrow and the offense they have a chance. They're going to be in most games they play.
Agree. Agree.
They're going to be in no matter who they play. They're going to be Kansas City, Baltimore. They'll be in that game.
Yeah.
Offensively, they'll be in those games.
hmm
Uh, but I think they're going to have a better season next year. And if Higgins stays healthy and Chase stays healthy, I think they'll win a couple more games.
The Bengals ownership wants every player after they've changed to take the Joe Burrow discount. But even taking a discount, you're not even going to be able to pay players because you have so much money wrapped into these guys. And Burrow's going to be signing a new contract within the next 2 years, Dan. That's going to be a 65 plus million quarterback deal. So you're not
Easily.
going to have any money easily by that time. I've been finished second in the AFC North.
Possible.
It's
Yeah.
possible. I mean,
Yeah. Why not?
Dan, it's kind of bad where you score 44 points in a couple games and lose in the NFL.
They were
Like this,
They finished one game behind the Steelers. Steelers were 10 and 7. They were 9 and 8.
yeah. And if they would
That's
have had
how
this,
close it was.
if they would have had a better season starting off the field, Dan, they might have had that 10 or 11 win this season.
The only difference is the Steelers have a way better defense.
That's the thing. I mean, in this division, Dan, this division is stacked. Everybody got better. Your defense needs to
Gave
be
up
good.
almost 100 less points and scored 100 less points than the Bengals.
Yeah. As I said, Dan, it's so hard. You give up 44 points. You score 44 points and you lose games scoring 45 points,
And
Dan.
they were the
That's
second best scoring team, the second most points in the AFC last year.
wow. That's but
Bengals,
but
472 points for
but your defense ranks in the last top 10, Dan. You know what I mean? You know,
434 against.
God, God, you put up 400 points on offense, but you give up 400 yards on defense.
And that is
That is bad.
worse than us. Worse than
That
us.
that's Dan. That is just that's
But
embarrassing. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, honestly. You think
but
about it.
the Cowboys were even worse.
Oh, Dan, shut up. Okay, we're not talking about the goddamn Cowboys, right? Stop it, Dan. Stop,
468
Dan.
points
Stop,
against. Oh
Dan.
my
Stop, Dan.
god.
Stop, stop, Dan. Dan.
Okay.
We're not talking about the worst in the NFL. Dan, please,
Okay,
please. Okay.
okay. Moving on. Moving on.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Well, let's go to the number 2 team in the division here. You know, my neck of the woods here. Let's talk about the black and gold Pittsburgh Steelers, Dan. Let's talk about last year. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Justin gets the nod to start the first 6 games. Monday Night Football. Tomlin makes a decision. Russell Wilson. He looked like shit in that first game, but that second half, God, it was Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, Dan. But then,
And he was
Dan,
like one of the best deep ball passers last year too. Played
he
11
is.
games.
He is, but Dan, and then he kind of took a step back here, Dan. You know, like, okay, what
Yep.
was it? He's not reading the progressions. Was it, Dan, that he was just trying to get out of the pocket? The offensive line wasn't there. He threw the deep ball quite a few times, and it's beautiful deep ball. You know, I love
Yep.
the moon ball that he has, but what was the issue, Dan? Can we blame Justin Fields or Russell Wilson last year? What do we blame?
I think Russell Wilson and Fields have some to blame because they touch the ball every play. You know, I
Agree?
think that Russell Wilson had some rough games, but I think maybe Pickens being out 3 games
Yeah.
affected him a little bit. I think he was like the go-to guy. And I
Hmm.
think Pickens got hurt later in the year. It's just was he like out a game and hurt a couple of games. So I
Yeah.
think he was their main weapon. And without him, I think it throws him off a little when he doesn't have his main weapon.
Agree. Agree.
But for playing 11 games, 2,400 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 picks, that's pretty good.
It is. It is.
95 rating, only played 11 games.
Mhm.
To me, I don't think Fields played all that bad either, to be honest.
No,
He
I
just
don't. I don't. Yeah.
doesn't throw as much,
Hmm.
but he had a 65% completion percentage, only 1,000 yards, but he had 5 touchdowns and a pick. I mean, they had good quarterback play last year.
They did, but I don't blame the coaching staff. I don't blame the QBs. But you said, the quarterback touches the ball 99% of every snap. Of course, he touches the ball there. But
Yep.
my thing is, you always look at the offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've always had a good offensive line to give Big Ben time. In the back, looking
33
back there throwing the ball.
sacks. Wilson got
33
sacked
seconds is not
33
that bad.
times,
But Dan,
16 for Fields.
I think a lot of it, Dan, was you have Russell Wilson being a mobile quarterback and Justin Fields as well. So that sack count is a little
It's
bit
a little,
decreased because you can get out of the pocket.
well, it's decreased, but it could be inflated some games too.
True.
Sometimes like that, but for Wilson, he's never good in the short game. So if he can't go deep or intermediate, he's not very effective. Quick game, he's not very good.
Right. Right. I agree with that. I
When
agree
he's
with that.
playing that game, throwing the ball downfield, being aggressive,
Hmm.
um, but they also just didn't play well as a team some games, especially towards the end of the year.
That's true. Thomason's about to have his first losing season. Sixes. I disagree with that one.
Nah,
I
no,
think they at least have 10 wins
no,
this year. Listen,
no.
the only
So
thing to
I'm
me, Dan,
sorry, he's a good coach. I still
he
think he's
is,
a
he
good
is,
coach.
and he's a locker room coach. That team, I don't care, Dan, if you're,
Will they get
8 or 0
far?
and 8.
I
Yeah,
don't know about that.
to me, Dan, if you're 0 and 8 starting off the season, Tomlin can say one word, and that team could win 9 straight to go 9 and 8 that season. That's just the way they rally around him. But to me, Dan, I think this team can win in 10 games at least. I feel that way. But the only question to me, Dan, you lose starting quarterbacks. You get Russell Wilson for your team. Justin Fields heads away. You sign Mason Rudolph, and your backup is Skylar Thompson, Dan.
So they have no quarterback basically.
They don't have one, Dan. Okay, here's the question. Do you take the diva that likes to sit in the dark room and meditate, Aaron Rodgers?
I don't know about that.
What's the next best option then? There is none.
There is none.
So what do? You just let it ride with Mason Rudolph that has the controls of the whole team.
Oh God, I'm not very confident in that at all.
That's
Who
wow.
knows? Maybe take a quarterback later in the draft, Jackson Dart or something.
To me,
McCord,
this is, I
something.
always say this for a lot of teams. I think the Kyle McCord ish the guy comes in right here, Dan, because I think he can win with Pickens, Calvin Austin, and DK Metcalf, Dan. This is like him playing at Ohio State again, honestly. You think about that. You
Yep.
know, Jalen Warren's a good running back. I think he should have been a starter last year over Najee Harris. Najee Harris to me was washed up. A good running back, but wasn't the Najee Harris that we all have seen for a couple
No.
years. So offensive, here's the play. Quarterback, offensive line first round, Dan. I think you go offensive line first round.
Yep.
Then I think you go quarterback second round. I think you do that. Your wide receivers are fine. Your running backs are okay. You picked up Gainwell from the Eagles. He's a two back. Cordell Patterson, he's a scat back, wide receiver, running back, kick returner. I like that play there. But God, Dan, you have to have a quarterback, Dan, and you don't. You have
To get them
Mason
the ball.
Rudolph. You have Mason Rudolph, Dan. You have Mason Rudolph. That's it.
I mean, my guess is they're going to sign Rodgers. That's my guess.
You think so?
But why not?
Okay. Larry Jackson hosts the Power Time Marks every Tuesday night, 10:30. If you want to listen to WWE and NXT wrestling out there, check it out. Both guards were worst in the league, and the quarterbacks were limited. I do agree with that. I mean, who is it?
Yeah,
Isaac?
they're not the best offensive line.
No.
They were 49 sacks. It's a good amount, but it's
Yeah, Isaac Samuto, and what's the other guy's name? Mason something, McCormick or something like that. I think it was something like that. Eddie says the Steelers screwed up I think they had to keep either one of them, Dan. They had to keep one of those guys.
Fields, I would have kept easily.
And then looking at the contract of what these
Wilson
other teams
also,
paid for.
both of them. Why did not just keep both of them? I don't understand.
And the thing was, Dan, you only paid both quarterbacks $4 million each last year. You saved so much money last year because Denver paid for everything, with the Wilson deal. You got Fields on the cheap. And looking what you guys gave Russell Wilson,
Yeah, I just don't
why
understand
not keep
what their thinking is.
right?
I just don't
That was a cheap price to keep Russell Wilson. That was a cheap price to keep Justin Fields. Why'd you let both of them walk? And you pay Mason Rudolph $12 million? What the hell are you thinking? What the hell are you thinking?
Idea.
Don't get it.
Idea.
Don't get it. Larry says so. The protection was horrible, and the coaching handicap as well.
So Wilson had a good year considering then.
He did. He did. The protection was very horrible. The offensive line, yes, and I think that did play in a lot, Dan. Where you have mobile quarterbacks.
Wilson was the problem, to be honest.
No, I don't think it was. I think it was the scheme of the offensive line, where Pat Prime was basically played an offensive lineman the entire season. He had to stay in a block. Yeah. He had to. It was just an O-line coverage issue.
But I know that very well. Being a Giants fan, we always have to have our tight ends help and block before we had Andrew Thomas.
True. Very true.
Or with Evan Neal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he says the Steelers haven't drafted O-line very well the last few years.
They used to do well.
Well, I think the last good offensive lineman they had was Marquise Pouncey.
Yeah.
One of those guys, the Pouncey brothers, as a matter of fact. I think that was one of their best keys. But you're right. I mean, they really haven't hit the mark on offensive
line then.
Best player available with their drafting. I can agree with that. If Kelvin Banks dropping so far, Dan. If he's there, 21? That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. Kelvin Banks. Why not? If he's there, right? A lot of people have him drop. A lot of people have him drop.
If Banks is there at 21, I would definitely take him.
Of course, you're 10-year starter for the league.
Steelers your tackle. I mean, Larry would know better than me. Makes sense.
Larry's actually a Cowboys fan too.
Oh yeah, he's a Dallas fan. That's right.
But he lives up here. He's actually about 3 blocks away from where I live.
So you both live there.
Yeah, we both live up here in the black and gold area. I think they do go offensive line here because you have to build that. Jones and Moore were booty, butt cheeks, and Russ not throwing the ball across the middle, and also him with the OC not agreeing didn't help. I get that,
Russ
but
really throw across the middle a lot. He throws deep and sideline stuff, outside the numbers a lot.
Yeah, he's an outside the hash mark. Yeah.
But I think if he played a whole season, had a whole all season with the Steelers, didn't come in late. Where I thought he signed later on.
But you know what,
Dan? A whole season with them, I thought would have had a really good year.
But the thing is too, you got to give him credit, Russell Wilson, even Justin Fields last year, Dan, for their
Fields
play
played well. They
because
both played solid quarterback play all
right,
around.
I get
To
that,
be honest.
but you have to give them credit because your number one wide receiver was a head case in Pickens.
Yep.
He was a head
Hmm.
case. You know, there
Yep.
were great games where he was all pro, all NFL. Next game, you know, the little baby comes out. I'm not getting the ball. I'm not running the route. Screw this. You know, why run the route when
But
I'm not getting the ball?
when they signed Metcalf, I thought, all right, Wilson's going back there
That's what I thought. That's what I thought, Dan. Because
because I'm like, all right, that makes sense. You get Pickens, Metcalf,
yeah,
Fryermuth.
yep.
You improve your offensive line in the draft. Your defense is solid. That to me, that would have been the move to make. I think.
And I think Metcalf is a deep ball specialist. We've seen that with Russell Wilson. Pickens can blow the roof off.
But you could also go out and keep Wilson, or keep Wilson and go out and get Freeze, the guard.
Okay, okay,
Bring him in.
okay. And
He was one of the good guards out there. They probably could have afforded him.
to
Or
me,
Rudolph.
to me, the two guys that I thought, Roman Wilson from Michigan last year, Dan, we seen him as a wide receiver at Michigan. He's a rookie,
Yeah.
basically second year player. And the guy that I thought would be a good deep ball guy, Scotty Miller from Atlanta Falcons. Look what they did with him throwing the deep ball. The kid is fast, and that's what Russell Wilson is, that deep ball bomb thrower. But man, he's gone,
He's
so
one
we
of the
can't
best
say
in the
that anymore.
league. But
Yeah,
I'm just surprised they bring Wilson back, bringing in Metcalf and having
agree,
Pickens. I
agree,
mean, they both would have
agree,
had a monster year with Wilson.
agree,
But I'll
100%,
take
100%.
them. Neighbors will have a great year with them.
Hey, one team's loss is another team's treasure, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Steelers were also handicapped with that schedule. Remember that schedule, Dan, that they had in the beginning of the
They
season?
had a
That was a gauntlet. That's a gauntlet.
but they also had a stretch in the middle that was really rough.
Yeah. I mean, I always say,
was,
Dan, Dallas has that 3 games in 10 days. The Steelers had freaking, just like Larry said, 3 potential Super Bowl teams in 11 days. That is a gauntlet, Dan. And if you come out of the division in second place with the wins that you had, you got to give Tomlinson credit, number one, because he dealt with what he had and he still found a way, Dan, to get to, second in that rough division.
There was a stretch here where they played the Chargers, the Steelers, the Bengals defense sucks, Denver, Cleveland, Tampa Bay, Washington. There was that little run in the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning was Cleveland, Houston, Pittsburgh, us.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles.
Yeah, okay.
But the Chargers, the Steelers, Bengals, Denver, Cleveland, they all good defenses except for one.
Yeah, and in this division, Dan, you're playing solid deep. Every team in this division, except for the Bengals, have a defense, Dan. But
then Washington and Cincinnati, their middle of their schedule was rough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong team.
That's what I was gonna say. Wait a minute, you said you're playing the Steelers. I'm like, wait a minute, who? Because I was like, wait, that Steelers schedule's light. Yeah, that schedule's light.
Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore, all in a row.
Okay,
that was the tough little stretch. Yeah, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Baltimore.
Yes. That's what it was. Yes. Because I remember last year when we went to the divisions, we were like, wow, somebody does not, Roger Goodell or the schedule makers do not like Pittsburgh because they set them up with a gauntlet, a back-to-back
and then
physical
the 4
game.
division games in a row is odd.
That's odd. Yeah. I mean, God, that's,
I can get. So they had 5 division games in 6 weeks.
That's insane. Eddie says this, Aaron Rodgers will turn the Steelers into the Jets. I don't think so because, man.
Rodgers, considering how bad Jets were, he was fine. He's all right. Coming off an Achilles.
Yeah.
But Rodgers with Metcalf.
That's what I mean.
Fryermuth and with Pickens.
Austin. I think that's a solid 3. Running back with Jalen Warren. I think you're fine.
Pickens and Metcalf are home run. Like they could score a touchdown anytime. Both those guys.
Agree. Steelers could be better without Rodgers. It was good towards the ends of the rear. I agree. Like, I think they will be better if they sign him somehow.
They'd be fine with Rodgers. I think they'd be fine.
I think so. I mean,
I think we'd have a good year with them.
I think so, Dan. Their defense is solid. They just picked up Darius Slay from the Eagles. They picked up that corner as well, coming in there. TJ Watt is still arguably one of the top 3 defensive ends in the game. I think the defense is solid. They've always been solid on defense. But the problem is They haven't been the same ever since Big Ben left Pittsburgh, Dan. They can't put up points. They can't score. My thing is they need a quarterback, number one.
Yep.
Mason Rudolph is not the answer. If Aaron
No.
Rodgers is the answer, take the flyer on him because you got to put all your eggs in one basket this year because this division, Dan, you came in
It's
second
tough.
last year. If you go with Mason Rudolph and he ain't the answer, what do you
Every game is going to matter, even if it's just one.
Oh, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
The Bengals will finish one game behind the Steelers.
I mean,
There's
God. Oh,
plays here or there that cost them it. That'll make a difference.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh,
The Steelers are in trouble if they don't sign Rodgers. If they still have to go with Mason Rudolph,
they're
or
screwed.
whatever name Rodgers.
That,
You
that,
Mason
that,
Rudolph, Rudolph, and
yeah,
Skylar Thompson.
if
It's
Rudolph starts the
God.
season, they don't have another quarterback.
Oh God.
Maybe it will function if they're 500. I don't know. That's pretty bad.
But
They gotta have
okay,
something in mind. They gotta have
oh,
something in mind.
okay. They have to draft a quarterback in the second or third round. Then they have to, right?
If they don't sign Rodgers,
Yes,
absolutely, they have to do
you have
something.
to. You have to.
But will
I
it
mean,
equal great season? I don't know.
no, I don't think. The only person I could see really coming in here, Dan, to start, maybe possibly being from clipboard to possibly starter. And the only reason I'm saying that because this quarterback can, a couple quarterbacks in the draft can beat out Mason Rudolph. They can beat out Skylar Thompson.
Oh yeah,
maybe you look at a Jackson, a Jackson Dart here, Kyle McCord. Dan, I think this is the perfect guy that can come in and get that ball down. He's the most accurate quarterback in college. He is a deep ball thrower. Dan, Ohio State, he put up 4,000. He goes to Syracuse. I can't name one player on that team, Dan, but I watched him throw for damn nearly 5,000 yards and broke the ACC record.
yeah.
I mean, if he's there second, third round, Dan, I think this is the perfect pick right here because the weapons are there, Dan. The weapons are there. Solid defense and a great coach to groom the kid in the environment, Dan, with Tomlin.
Will the Steelers? I would do that if I was the Steelers.
But Joe Milton is that guy, Dan. It's going to sit the bench for 2 or 3 years too.
Yeah,
He's a
but
project
I would
guy.
have went and got Milton instead of the other guy. The other
Oh,
guy they
Mason?
have.
Mason?
Nope, the other guy. I can't remember his name right now.
Which
Skylar
one?
Thompson.
Oh, Skylar Thompson. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that, but I mean, at least Milton brings a different level to the game, Dan. If he can't
Some
read progression,
talent.
if he doesn't read progression, you won a couple games with Justin Fields running the ball. Joe Milton can do the same damn thing. You know what I mean? He can run the ball as well. So I think it's better, but to
For
me,
the
I'm
Steelers,
questioning the
they're
Steelers GM.
21. I am because I thought either Wilson or Fields would be there. Both Dart and McCord could be taken pretty. I agree with that. So one might go before that.
I think Jackson, for some reason, I think Dart goes in the first round, Dan. I think he's going to be a pick in the first round. The way his combine is looking, I think he's going to be that first round guy.
I agree.
Metcalf also disappears at weeks at times because
Yeah, but he gets doubled in Seattle. Now it's a little tougher for teams who pick your poison.
I mean, you exactly. You look at Metcalf; he plays the outside. You got Njigba Smith who plays the inside. Lockett, even though he is still a solid wide receiver, Metcalf is the double team guy. Dan, that safety is always playing an umbrella on top of
Metcalf.
Metcalf.
Worry about Pickens now.
Two outside guys, right?
It's a tough decision for teams defensively.
Yeah, and I think this is where that solid guy comes in. Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller. They play the slot, Dan, and I think that if you have a deep ball thrower, this would have been the perfect option for Russell Wilson. Mason Rudolph is just that average clipboard holder. We don't talk about him. The only thing I know of him is when Myles Garrett just beat the shit out of him with the helmet. That's what he's known for, Dan. That's the only thing Mason Rudolph's known for.
Yeah, Mike, I like Milton for his size.
Yeah, 6'5", 245. Hell yeah.
His talent, but
right. That's fine with me.
Is he an answer for you? And if I'm making a move and giving up an asset, even if it's a lower round, I want that guy to compete in camp or something, not just to be a body in camp. You know what I'm saying?
Agree.
So
agree. Where we at here? Jackson Dart at 21. Listen, if they don't sign Rodgers, that might be a deal there, or McCord. Dart and McCord, I agree with both of those. I think if it's there available, if you don't sign Aaron Rodgers,
or offensive line if one falls.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna. I think they're actually gonna have.
But I think it should be a quarterback, a I don't know if it's going to be a wide receiver. I don't think they really need one,
Hmm.
to be honest. Maybe defense, but their defense is also really good.
Yep. Broderick Thomas was a complete. You mean, are you talking about Broderick Jones? Is that who you're talking about? I think you're talking about Eddie. Are you talking about the left tackle Broderick Jones and not Thomas? So I can't recall them having a Broderick Thomas on their team. I don't think so. Let's see. What's where we at here? Michael says, "What will the Steelers bring?" Reported Joe Milton. I mean, rumors. We don't know. I think it would be a solid play, but Joe Milton, Mason Rudolph. Pick your poison, right? Pick your poison. You're talking clipboard versus clipboard, Dan. You know what I mean? The only thing I can say is Mason Rudolph has started NFL games before, Dan. He started
Yes,
NFL
he
games before.
has.
He started. He has that. I hate saying he has veteran experience, but he has NFL game time, is what I would like to say. You know?
We
Let's
get
see.
to this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dan. You got
We
him.
get to that.
Steelers don't lose to the
Oh
Cowboys on
yeah,
the second last
I remember
play.
that.
Oh my God. Do you remember that, Dan? Talk about a
Yep.
bonehead, dumbass play, Dan. But thank
Yep.
God Micah Parsons is a smart son of a bitch. I'll tell you that. You know, play until you hear the whistle, Dan. Play until you hear the whistle. Okay. Justin Fields, play until you hear the whistle. That's all I'm gonna
Yep.
say. Oh my God. Wow.
I don't think Lockett is signed
No, he
yet.
has not signed yet. He has not signed yet. He's still
I've heard the Patriots might be interested. That's all I really see.
they're signing everybody right now. They have the money to do everything. So why
I
not?
think that I would. That'd be a good move for them. I think.
I think so too. I think so too.
Eddie wants Joe Milton in Dallas. I don't know what for, but
No, I do not want him because I just don't because he's got project player for me right now. I just can't do it. Steelers trade for Milton and sign Rodgers. I
signing
think their
Rodgers,
best.
I think, is the most important thing for them.
Yeah,
I
I mean
think
that's the
they
best
should
deal
just
they can do. They just go what pull the trigger. But to me, Dan,
Just
one
do it.
thing, he's losing. He's losing team camaraderie because Cam Hayward already said it best. If you want to play for us, sign. Don't keep us in the lingo here. Come down, sign.
You want an answer.
We want an answer, dude. Are you interested or not? Don't fuck around.
Don't jerk us
Exactly.
around.
Right.
Don't
Right.
use this as leverage.
Hmm.
Let us know what the deal is so we can decide accordingly what we need to do.
Agree.
Sooner
Yeah.
the better.
Jones. Yep. There you go. There you go. Broderick Jones. I was like, wait a minute. Who the hell was this guy? That guy Thomas. I was like, wait, do they have a guy?
You're gonna love this next comment.
Okay. Next comment, Eddie. You're going to learn from Dak
He's
Prescott?
like, learn what from Dak? Not to be
Ed,
cut.
Eddie, I think Eddie's joking on that one because you know what? Number one, coming from a quarterback that doesn't read progressions very well, you want to have him groomed by a quarterback that doesn't read progressions even half as good as Joe Milton? Hell no. No. God, no. God, no. No. Eddie.
Yeah, no
I won't
cowboy
listen.
talk.
Yeah, like especially a ridiculous comment like that, Eddie. God. But Ed, their defense, real quick. Their defense is solid, and I like their defense.
Their defense is real good.
Their defense is good. I love their defense. Especially going out and get Darius Slay on the opposite side there. Team him up with Joey Porter Jr. You're solid. You still have Micah Fitzpatrick in the back end, Patrick Queen, T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward.
I like the Logan Harrison signing. I think that's a good signing.
Yes. I love this defense, Dan. I love the defense.
And that's just their strength is their defense. So they don't really need to score a ton of points. If you score around 20 points or so, you're probably going to win games.
And it's totally opposite. We talk about the Cincinnati offense. Yeah, we talk about the Cincinnati offense being so awesome where their defense sucks. You got to score 40 points a game to win games. You look at Pittsburgh, Dan, their defense is so great, but their problem is they don't have a quarterback with a solid offense. So, God, Dan, if they don't sign Rodgers, Dan, they could be that team that goes from second to last in the division, Dan.
I don't know. I'm starting to think Eddie could be right. Maybe. I mean, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't overcome how bad your quarterbacks are. Look at us. Like sometimes if you just don't have the talent in that room,
right,
to put a quality player, a quality quarterback player on the field, you are screwed.
Okay, Dan.
How good your coaching is.
Okay, but Dan, here's a name. Okay, here's a name. NFL Comeback Player of the Year. 49,000-year-old, 58-year-old guy, Joe Flacco. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's smart. He knows when to throw it away. I think it's
He's
Rodgers or the next best available is Joe Flacco,
he's
right?
slow as molasses, but he can throw the ball and he can play and he knows the offense. He can read a defense
That's the
and give
thing, and
him
he has
two
weapons.
weapons.
Solid
So
running
I
game,
think
tight end.
Flacco, if Rodgers was a West Side, I think that might make sense. He's a veteran. He'd be a good
Yeah.
locker room presence, and that would be interesting. I think that's
Dan, this
good
could be where,
suggestion.
this could be just like, the Baltimore Ravens years back when Trent Dilfer was the quarterback. The defense won that championship. This, all we ask you to do is go out there, don't turn the ball over. Joe, we know you can't run, you know, just stand in the pocket, get rid of it, throw it downfield, quick slants. Our defense will keep people under 20 points. Just get us in field goal range, get a touchdown. We can score touchdowns, field goals. We win games.
Mm,
That maybe, Dan, maybe.
I don't think their offense line is that bad, but Flacco's strictly a pocket passer.
Yeah. No, Dan, here's
So
one. Here's one
he
real
would
quick.
get
I
it out
did
on schedule. They
true.
would scheme it for him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a quick game like a West Coast offense if you had a Flacco. Honestly, it'd be a quick game,
Oh, I
out there
want
for
to
him.
read this comment. Rodgers
Yes.
is like,
Now,
was it the Pat McAfee special?
Dan,
On the
Pat
Pat
McAfee,
McAfee
Pat
special show.
McAfee and Aaron Rodgers are pretty damn tight. You know that.
Oh, I
Look at
know
last
that. I
year's
know that.
with the
Yep.
Deondae Adams thing. He just
Yep.
popped on screen. But to me, Dan, this is bullshit if you're going to do this shit because to me, you just pulled another LeBron James. I'm taking my talent to South Beach. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see shit like Dan, National Signing Day for college players, bringing out the hats. That's to me what Rodgers is. He wants a spotlight on him, Dan. I don't want to
Oh,
see
I
it.
know.
Make a damn decision and say, you know what? I'm man enough to come out here and say, Adam Schefter reports Aaron Rodgers signs a 2-year deal. I don't want to see him on a goddamn show. I don't want to see him sitting in there meditating, coming out and saying, I'm going to be signing with them. That's bullshit. Grow up. How old are you? 40 years old now? Grow the hell up.
Let's
Grow the
set it.
hell up.
Let's set it. This.
The Steelers do not have the Ravens defense to save Flacco, but they are solid. They're number 2 in this
They're
division.
solid, but
They're
I
solid.
half agree with that because how's their quarterback play going to be?
That's the
I got a
thing.
feeling if they got Rudolph or Flacco and Rudolph and Skylar Thompson there, the quality of play is going to be way worse.
Yeah.
There's no way they're playing better than Fields and Wilson how they played last year. There's no way they're going to play better than that. And that was
Agree.
pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Two knuckleheads, McAfee, and I like watching McAfee. I do watch his show once in a while. But Rodgers, man, if you do that shit, dude, you know what? God, I could do a whole show on you, Aaron Rodgers. Grow up, dude. Just grow the hell up.
I think Watt was banged up last year a little bit.
He's injured, man. That's the problem with him. He can't play,
He played
17
every
games.
game. But 11.5 sacks is still solid, I think.
Oh, he's solid, but I mean, he is still arguably one of the top 3, Dan. But you got to give the guy credit, man. He's a one-man show at times off that edge, and he demands double teams. Dan, 11 sacks
Highsmith
last year
too. I mean, he'll get better.
Oh yeah, Highsmith will get a lot better. Alex Mike Highsmith coming out the linebacker spot. I think he's solid. I love their defense.
But
I love their
defense is not what I'm worried about. If I'm really the Steelers, I'm worried about their offensive
right.
production.
Now, once again, we bring this name into play: Kirk Cousins.
No way.
My answer, no. My answer, no.
Yeah. Nope.
No.
I'd rather get Rodgers than Cousins. If I don't get Rodgers, I'm gonna sign Flacco. I think.
And here's the thing with we talked about Kirk Cousins.
They should do.
He's coming off the ACL, and he's coming off that limp arm where he couldn't throw the ball, Dan, and he still can't plant on his back foot. You have the wide receivers here to go downfield, and Kirk Cousins couldn't throw 35 yards last season without being in pain.
Nope.
No, can't do it.
No,
cannot
do that.
Can't do it.
If he was perfectly healthy, fine.
Yes, agree.
I mean, a good destination for him.
Agree. Now, where do you think they end up, Dan? The question is the quarterback. The question is the quarterback, Dan. Let's talk about if Mason Rudolph is the quarterback versus if they get Aaron Rodgers.
Well, we're kind of going to I'll answer his comment because it has to do with it. If the Steelers do not get Rodgers, they will not win the division. So the Steelers are handing the division to the Ravens and the Bengals. I don't think they win the division regardless. They could have a better year, but I don't think they win. Maybe second. But I think Baltimore is a better team overall than they are. And they'll get better quarterback play, and that's the question. Who's your starting quarterback?
Okay, how about we start with Mason Rudolph
or Dorian Thomas?
No, Thompson's gone. He's an Eagle.
Never mind then. Not Dorian Thompson. Skylar Thompson. I'm sorry.
Skylar Thompson. Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Okay, so let's talk about two things. We always give predictions about what we think the team's going to be. This one, I'm going to go a little different direction. Give me your prediction with Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson with no other quarterback signed here. Where do you think they end up?
6-11.
Oh my God!
Maybe
Damn.
7-10 because their defense is really good.
That's the thing. I do give them 7 wins. Defense can keep you in the games. You know, any
I think
blind
they'll be
dog.
around 500 regardless, though.
Okay,
I
I'm
think
gonna
they're
get
a very well coached team.
I'm gonna go 7-10 here. I do. Yeah, I'm gonna go 7-10 with Mason Rudolph. Now let's flip the script. If Aaron Rodgers is signed to a 1-year, 2-year deal, what's the record from 7 wins, Dan?
11, 12.
Okay. So we're giving him that 4-game Aaron Rodgers cushion, right? Basically.
Yeah, at least
Okay.
10. I think they'd be a playoff team.
I'm
That
gonna
would be a
go.
problem with Rodgers.
Okay, I'm gonna go 11 with Rodgers as well. I think he can. I think he can get that ball downfield. He has one of the quickest releases in the NFL still, and if that
He can run
offensive
the
line
ball.
doesn't give him time, I think he's an 11-win team.
And
All
he'll
right,
be more confident in his heel, his
yeah.
Achilles.
Here we'll do the comments before we get to the last team. Let's see how Highsmith comes back from his injury. That's one of the keys on defense as
True.
well. If the Steelers don't get Rodgers, they will not. We already read that one.
Yeah, I read that
Also,
one, yeah.
yep, the Steelers without Rodgers will be third in division. Well, that is
They'll-
possible.
They're
That is
going to be
possible,
second
man.
or third because it could be the Bengals.
Mhm.
You know, it could be. It's not going to be the Browns. It's just they were
Okay.
both very close. They were both one game apart last year.
Gotcha. Michael says 6-11. We said 7-10. I can see both.
That's why I
I
said
really
6
could.
11, 7
Yeah,
and 10
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
at
Let's see.
most.
I don't trust Aaron Knucklehead. I call him the diva, is what I call him now. I mean, to me, Steelers with Rodgers 12-5. He's going that 1 game extra.
Yeah,
I could see that. I
I
mean,
could easily see that.
you don't have to
Easily.
come in here and score 40 points with this defense. You know, you don't have to do that. And Aaron Rodgers is a veteran quarterback where he knows to keep your team in a game, knowing that defense is on the sideline, Dan. All right, Dan, let's go to the last team in the division here. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. Dan, talk about a stacked, high-flying, fast NASCAR team on offense and defense, Dan. God, what happened last year, Dan? I thought this team was going to be AFC Super Bowl contenders,
They
Dan,
were.
or
They
appearance play.
Just didn't play well enough in the playoffs. You know, you can be
Once
good the
again,
whole
Dan,
season,
playoffs. Once
and
again, Dan,
in the
playoffs.
playoffs, you
Once
just couldn't
again,
get it done.
right? Once
Yep.
again, playoffs, Dan. Playoffs.
Yeah.
Wow. Dan, I mean, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Mark Andrews. The offensive line is good, Dan. The offense is great. They go out and get a veteran backup. He's never going to play, which I don't understand why the hell Cooper Rush, totally opposite of Lamar Jackson, goes there on a deal. But the defense is solid, Dan. Their defense flies everywhere. I'm talking 11 guys on the ball. They really don't have holes to fill, Dan, honestly. But here's my question to you, Dan.
Points in the fourth quarter either.
That's the thing. Yes. My thing is, if I'm Baltimore, Dan, and I have holes that I really don't need to fill like other teams have here, they're sitting at what, like 29 or something like that in the draft, 28, 29? Okay. This is where me, Dan, as the GM, I'm making phone calls in the top 12, Dan, because there's one player that I think that could fit this offense, even though they don't need it, Dan. But hear me out. Tyler freaking Warren, the tight end. Mark Andrews, I've lost confidence in this guy, Dan. The last 2 years, I dropped ball when he needed to catch the ball, Dan. 2 years straight, Dan. 2 years straight.
And that's probably one of the most disastrous plays that they've had in a long time.
Dan, wide open on a quick out, and the ball is in it, and he drops the ball, Dan.
I just couldn't. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. After the season they had, it's just unbelievable. Derrick Henry had a great game in that game too.
Yeah.
It's just.
He says Lamar fumbling was a bigger disaster. I get that too, but that last play of the game. Okay, yes, he fumbled.
That.
But They were in a position, Dan, to win that game if that catch was made, Dan. A simple
Exactly.
catch, Dan, that you make 9 out of 10 times, Dan.
It was definitely a big factor in the game. That's
Oh,
all we're saying.
uh, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Obviously, a turnover is always disastrous.
Mhm.
You're never going to
Lamar
have.
isn't a playoff quarterback. Do you agree with that?
He's not an elite playoff quarterback. He doesn't step up to the occasion. Russell Wilson does.
Agree. Agree with
Russell
that one.
Wilson has more experience in that situation. Period.
I agree with that
So
100% as well.
he's a better quarterback uh, than Lamar Jackson throwing wise.
Agree. Agree 100%. 100%. I do agree with that one. Um, well, talk about, Dan. What do you think they draft? I mean, they don't have a lot of holes to fill, Dan. They really don't. Where do you go? My thing is, shit, move up and get a Tyler Warren. Go get that tight end. A running back, a quarterback for the Wildcat, a wide receiver, a slot guy, a
Tyler Warren's
blocker.
a real good player too.
He's solid. What do you do in the draft? Because you really don't need defensive help, Dan, unless you're going to go depth. But at 29, Dan, you're not getting the best player, generational player. You're drafting really for a need, the best player, or
Yeah,
depth. I think you move up because, Dan, you're in contention every year in the AFC. I think you go out and get that one player to take you over the top, Dan. To me, trade something and move up to two. It might cost you a first round next year. But, Dan, we always say teams that are drafting 25 and up, what are they losing if they give a 25 of a top pick next year, Dan? Nothing. Nothing.
nothing. And also, like it's going to be a later round pick most likely.
Right,
They
right.
actually have a lot of draft capital. They have 27. Uh, you know, second round, the 2 4th round picks, 4 6th round picks. Good amount of
Mhm.
assets.
They do. I mean,
So for them at 27,
mhm.
probably a defensive side of the ball
Think defense. Okay, okay, all right.
because their
I mean,
offense is really solid, and they added Hopkins.
yeah, That's a solid guy there. I mean, he's
Which is
still
a
an old
solid, which
guy,
is a
but
solid addition, but still, they
yeah,
don't need him to be the guy.
true, true. I agree. He's a third wide receiver on that team. Zay Flowers and Bateman's number one. Then you got Devontae Walker, who's a speedster. But Hopkins is that guy that can get 3rd and 7, run to the sticks, turn, quick release, boom, possession, down, take the ball, move the chains. But man, Dan, I'm just so stuck on this Tyler Warren moving up here, Dan. My God, if they get him,
Tyler Warren's a great player, great talent.
that might be crazy.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
that would be let's see, maybe.
But get another wide receiver. I mean, God, I mean, there's only one ball to go around, though. I mean, that's the thing. But hey, God, I mean, they're in poised, Dan, because they have one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, and they have a top
Yes, they
5
do.
offense too.
Yes, they
So
do.
pick your poison. You know what I mean? You can either score 40, or you can get. You're not giving up 40.
Nope.
You scored 28 points a game. You're liable to win 12 games,
Yeah,
being the
they averaged
Baltimore
30
Ravens.
and a half and gave up 22, 21
That's
points a game or
that's
so.
that's amazing, Dan. Scoring 38 points a game and only
Third,
giving up
no,
20.
30 and a half,
30 and a half.
30.5,
Okay,
but
30.
still, that's a lot.
But you got to consider, Dan, a lot of those plays, they can be a lot high scoring, a lot more, but they run the ball with Derrick Henry. That takes so much
Oh,
time off that
yeah.
clock. So much time off that
1,900
clock.
yards, 21 yards last year.
God, amazing, amazing. And he says trade their whole draft. I wouldn't trade the whole draft because nobody wants that 4, 5, 6, 7 pick. But
But
to
you also
me,
have to remember from 27. It depends on where the players they like, your best player, their board looks like.
right,
When
right.
they start getting in the 20s, that's when you're going to start looking at it
But Dan, listen, you have all the
as it's
holes
going
there.
on.
This team is really young. Lamar's still in his prime. Henry's still in his
Exactly.
prime. To me, if I want to move from 27, let's say 12, with Tyler Warren, when I can see a team, okay, 2 teams down, Tyler Warren might be a fit here. I'm calling that team 2 spots ahead. If it's 12, I'm moving to 10. Okay, and I'm saying, hey, listen, I'll give you my first round pick. We'll flop picks. You can have the 27th pick this year. I will give you my first next year and my second the next year. Let me move up. No, I'll give you my first and first in because Tyler Warren is that player, Dan, to me. He
I
is
think
that
Tyler
player.
Warren's a very good player. I know they have likely. I know they have Andrews when he's getting older.
Yeah,
But you have to see who's going to fall into the 20s there till they even start. Because I'm not trading up into the top 15. I'm waiting until
Okay.
15 to 20 in that range to see what players fall there. Because you don't want
Okay.
to trade up too far because you give up too much.
Okay. If Warren drops to, let's say the Cowboys are 12, he goes to 13's on the clock. Do you make a play there, or are you gonna wait a little longer?
It's like 15 spots
Just
almost.
okay. You won't
14.
move up. Okay. Okay.
I would wait a little bit.
I'll move up to 10. I'll move up to 10 to give you two first because I think that's a player that could fit this system.
Yeah.
I do like Isaiah Likely, but I'm just not sold on Mark Andrews now, Dan. I'm really not. We got that. Now, what about this one, Dan?
That.
What about going full mode for Ricky Williams? Remember that shit? Oh my God! Wow.
Oh my goodness gracious!
See, Hopkins looked old last year. Listen, he's not the
He is
DeAndre
old.
Hopkins. He is old. Give the guy credit, man. He's old.
Yeah.
He looked old. Shit, he played his age, but Bateman's
With the rough
inconsistent.
injuries too.
Yeah, Bateman's. I do get that too. Zay Flowers was the man last year. Warren is going top 12. I can see that, but I'm just saying to make a play, if that's what you want to do, if he's top 10, top 12, I say go for him because I do think he falls between 10 to 15. That's where I think he falls because there's a lot more needs. Yeah, there's a lot more needs out there as generational players, Dan.
Absolutely.
So, Dan, where do you think this team falls next year? I mean,
I think they'll win the division again.
I think so too. I think they win the division based on
Could
what
be
we've talked about.
Could be 14. Could be 13.
Ooh, wow.
It could be anywhere in that range. Should be ours, but they should win 12 games. I think.
I'm definitely going to go 12. I think they could.
They're the best team in the division.
Agree. And some teams got worse, Dan. The Pittsburgh offense got worse. Cincinnati has no defense. Okay.
The Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns have no quarterback. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
Might have no quarterback. So
exactly. So that might be I don't want to say a sweep in the division because this is the AFC North, Dan. This is the AFC North. So I can think possibly 4 to 5 wins in the division here. They are going to have the toughest AFC conference schedule, being the number 1 seed, from their division. But Dan, I'm going to go based on what they have last year. I'm going to go 13-4. 13-4 this year. And I think they do. I think they get to the AFC Championship, and I think this might be their year, Dan. I think this might be the year. Finally, for the Ravens.
Definitely, they're real close.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I think they could definitely get back to the AFC title game and get to the Super Bowl. But
I mean, they don't have the holes. They don't have to fill the holes right here
next time.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Please catch the ball, Mark Andrews. I'm glad Dallas didn't target him.
I've ever seen.
The Bears could take Warren. The Bears could take Warren. I can see that too. The Bears and Ravens split. I give the odd. I agree with you, Eddie. But right now, I give the nod.
But they can't stop anybody.
Exactly. I give the nod to the Ravens because you can score and you can stop. The Bengals can score, but can the Bengals stop the Ravens? Is the question. I don't think so.
No way.
Nope. No. Michael says Ravens win the division 12-5 possibly. I agree with that. I think at least 12 wins, 12-5. Stealing to me is probably 13-4. If they squeak out a win, based on the schedule, we don't know what the schedule is. Back-to-back games, division games, road games. They could go 14-3, but I think they get that one spot in the AFC, Dan. I'm going to go 13-4 again this year. Yeah, I'm going to go 13-4. I'll stay there. Yeah, I'll stay 13-4. All right, Dan. Where are we going to go next week, Dan? Where are we going?
Let's see. We did. Let's see.
Well, I think we have to go. I think we have to go. No, I think we have to go AFC because there's only 2 divisions left, right? And they're the Super Bowl contending teams. Since the AFC West, we have to go there, right? So we have to stay in the AFC again.
Yes.
And then we will go to the NFC East, the last division of the year for us.
Yeah.
So next week, AFC West, Dan. AFC West. God. That division, Dan, I'll tell you, really surprised me last year. Denver was a surprise team to me. It really
absolutely.
was. 100% surprised me.
So was
Chargers.
I can't think of the quarterback. I don't know why. Went to Denver.
What's that?
The rookie that went to Denver.
Oh, Bo Nix.
Bo Nix. There we go.
Yeah. I tell you what, Sean Payton, I give that guy so much credit because, God, man, I mean, They gave up the farm for Russell Wilson. They were still paying for it, Dan. You know, but what they got from Bo Nix, and a lot of people said, even including me, Dan, Bo Nix is not the QB. But this proves under the right system, Dan, a quarterback can flourish. And you know what? Kudos to Sean Payton because he put him in situations where run the ball, throw the ball, be Bo Nix from, Alabama, or I'm sorry, Auburn, and be the Bo Nix from Oregon. He let him
Yep.
be Bo Nix. He let him be Bo Nix.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. All right, Dan, before we get out here, I want to give a couple sponsors really quick out here. Excuse me, hold on, I can get through with my damn voice. Guys, if you need a lawyer out there, please reach out to Jason Fine, 1-800-HURT-123. Attorney Big Al, motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls, workman's comp, personal injury claims. 3 convenient locations in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Philadelphia, PA, Pittsburgh, PA. Mention Out of the Box Sports Entertainment for all your legal needs. And guaranteed when you mention Out of the Box, 2 things: no recovery, no fee for any case. And also, you get the hometown discount, the out of the box rate, 33 1/3%. So make sure you reach out to our guy, Jason Fine. And here's our schedule for the rest of the week. It's Thursday. Tomorrow morning we have the Silver and Black Raiders with Ken Fry. Tomorrow night we have Inside the Octagon, myself and Josh talking to UFC, big UFC event, Ursag versus Moreno this weekend coming up. The Atomic Drop Wrestling, because they are all about the road to WrestleMania. And Dan, what's going on with Big Blue Power Hour? We have any information going on?
I'll go on tomorrow.
Tomorrow
Either
night.
after Inside the Octagon or before.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So always, that's why we ask you to make sure you subscribe to our Facebook channel, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter for all our occasions, and also X as well. Make sure you follow, subscribe out there, share, tell a friend. This isn't your show. We have shows for everybody out there. So make sure you tune in to us. We're here 6 days a week. More shows coming soon. And Dan, guess what? In about 3 weeks, we are going to have one of our favorite shows, Dan, that NFL live draft show, Dan, where you and I sit here for 5 hours, Dan, 5 hours.
Too bad it's only one round.
I know, that Thursday night, Dan, that Thursday night. Well, I think, Dan, what we'll do is that Thursday night, we won't have the NFL Weekly Talk. We will have the NFL Weekly Talk live draft show. How's that?
Yep. There you go.
That's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. Because it starts right around 7 anyway. So that's
Yes,
what
it
we'll
does.
do. Yes. Well, there we go. So the next show, guys, is Silver and Black Raiders. So we appreciate everybody checking in. Last comments of the night is we got Eddie. I think Denver will get closer to taking down KC. I think KC is on the back.
Defense is good enough. Yep.
Yeah, I think KC is on the lower end. I think they're starting to decline, even though they back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, 1 loss, 1 win. I think teams are going to surpass them pretty fast. They're getting younger. Chiefs are getting older. If the Ravens do not make the championship game, Super Bowl Harbaugh should be. I don't think he's fired. And hire. Wow. Pitt fires Tomlinson. My conspiracy theory is to the Ravens' new voice and Harbaugh Steelers' new voice. Holy shit! Michael went deep. Michael went deep and wild right there. Wow. Dan, okay. If Tomlinson has a losing record, does he get fired? Yes or no?
No.
I don't think so. I think he's a staple piece for years.
They'd have to go like 0-17 or something like crazy like that.
Okay, 0-17. He's not making it past 9 games.
Well, but I'm sorry, but also if they have Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, like that's Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, you're using your QB.
I think I don't know what he's supposed to do about that one.
Yeah, at that point, you're using the quarterback. You're using your quarterback room as your scapegoat. You can't blame it on the coach when you have 2 third-string quarterbacks trying to make a starting unit, Dan. So
you can't. You're going to say, "Yep, we don't think we're going to win any games."
Exactly. Michael texting last comment of the night there. That's good show. Appreciate you, Michael. I love seeing other fans check in from other teams. Michael's a diehard Eagles fan for years and years. Longer than we've been. You've been a Giants fan longer than I've been a Cowboys fan. He's been there for years. So, Dan, next Thursday, 6:00, AFC West, Dan. AFC West. So, guys, my name is Paul Spencer. That man right there is Dan Connor. We'll be back next week, same time, talking AFC West on the NFL Weekly Talk. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody, and stay safe, and see you next Thursday night. Take it easy.